Hi, everyone. I'm Rochelle Rizzi with Verrueckt Nach Meer, and today I'm super excited. I have two lovely guests with me today who are meeting with us from their barn. I can't wait for you to see the background. There are literally goats climbing around. This is going to be a really fun adventure. So today I bring to you Karl Schatz and Margaret Hathaway. They are the owners and operators of 10 Apple Farm. And they also are the authors of 6 books on food and farming, most recently the Maine Bicentennial Community Cookbook. So we're here today to talk to them about their true north journey. They are also going through all of the things that the parents are going through right now with virtual schooling, which is what brought them to the barn so that they can get away and have their own internet. So welcome, you guys.
Oh,
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks for having us. We're
And
really excited to be here in the barn.
Yeah, excuse the chickens clucking in the background.
And the goats bleeding.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I can see there are some big goats back there. You've got a couple with some giant antlers. Like, are you guys gonna be safe?
No,
Yeah.
we're safe.
Yeah.
We're down here in the hay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're full-size Alpine dairy goats. So
Oh,
So
okay.
they're
big
big
animals.
goats.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me and all of our audience here. How did you come up with the name 10 Apple Farm?
Well, so there were 10 apple trees on the farm when we moved here. It took us actually quite a while coming up with a farm name. I think is one of the hardest things about farming is coming up with your farm name. But there were 10 apple trees, and the place we got our goats from was a place called Appleton Creamery, and there was sort of a nice sort of audio, tie-in to Appleton and 10 Apple. Of course, later we discovered there were actually 11 apple trees, but we'd already gotten our business cards made up at that point. So it was too late to change the name.
And the farm itself was built in 1901. So actually people who've lived around the area for a long time still refer to it as the Hansons' place, which, we've lived here for 15 years, but it's still the Hansons.
So when you bought the farm, did you have a vision for what you wanted to do already, or were you buying this for your family and the business came later?
Well,
a little bit of both.
A little bit of
maybe
both.
You can tell our origin story a little
Yeah,
bit.
because I think it really our vision for the farm kind of grew out of how we got to the farm, which was so we're in Maine, we're in Southern Maine. And I grew up about an hour north of here. I'm from Maine originally, and Margaret's from Kansas. And we met when we were both living in New York City, which is where someone from Maine meets someone from Kansas.
Right, of course, that's totally natural.
Where else? And so we've been in New York for a little while, and we got a dog and moved in together. And we're just feeling, kind of not really as excited about living in the city as we once were, as once we had been. And we're feeling disconnected from where our food was coming from and wanting to feel more connected to our food. And we had
this was the early 2000s.
Yeah, so it was 2002.
Before the kind of wave of homesteading had happened. So we were
we were at that forefront of this sort of second wave of back to the land. But we had this fantasy that we wanted to be goat farmers and make goat cheese, but we really knew nothing about goats or cheese making or agriculture of any kind. We don't come from farming families or farming backgrounds. And so we decided to use the skills we did have, which was writing and photography. Margaret had worked in cookbook publishing in New York. When we met, she was the manager of the Magnolia Bakery, which, if people know Magnolia, it's where the whole cupcake craze of the early 2000s started. So that's when we met, she was there.
I was in the epicenter of the cupcake world.
Oh, very good. That's exciting.
It was so much fun. It was such a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
But,
and I was at Time Magazine. I was a photo editor at Time Magazine, and so we used writing and photography to do a documentary project, a year-long documentary project that we called The Year of the Goat, where we drove all over the United States with our dog, visiting goat farms and cheesemakers and goat conventions and goat shows. And we went to the largest goat and sheep auction in the country, which is in the middle of nowhere of Texas. We went to the circus in Florida where they were training goats for the circus. Wyoming with goats, which became of one of the things we do here on our farm and our business now. And we just, spent a whole year kind of exploring goats, exploring different models of farms that we, thought we might want to emulate, and looking for a model.
And looking for a model both for a lifestyle and for a business that we could use goats in some way. At first, I think when we left on this journey, we left New York thinking, all right, we're going to be cheesemakers. We'll do a big commercial cheese operation. And our vision evolved in that year into something that was much more farming by example, less going to farmers markets and more bringing people to the farm and showing them how they could do this. And we're more in the inspiration than in.
Yeah, we're in the inspiration business.
Yeah. but I think showing people a model of how we took this dream that at the time everyone thought was insane. All of our friends and family thought we were, leaving stability for this crazy pipe dream. And almost 20 years later, this is the way we're raising our kids. This is what puts food on our table. And this is really what feeds our soul every day. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
But it took a while to get here. Yeah. I mean, just kind of where we are today, for 15 years, I had a job off the farm where I was driving into Portland, which is the, biggest nearby city, about a half an hour from the farm. So commuting into Portland every day for 9 to 5, farming in the margins, we would do, just kind of give a little bit of bigger picture of what we do here on the farm. So we're an agritourism business, hospitality, and education, recreation, and hospitality. And so we offer people farm experiences. And our number one most popular farm experiences are goat hikes that we lead. We have 18 acres of property and a trail that's about 1.5 miles long. And we take people come to the farm. Often, before the pandemic, we would teach people how to milk goats in our barn. And then we would take them on a hike. It's about a 2-hour experience where we hike with the goats and we talk about the goats, and it's educational and recreational, and it's been really, really popular.
Yeah, we've also done a lot of workshops because I come from a baking background. We've done a lot of baking and cheese making classes and cooking classes over the years, canning things, sort of a lot of the homesteading skills that we learned while we were on the farm, we teach people when they come to the farm. This year, because of the pandemic, that piece has been kind of shut down, but we've been able to safely continue with the goat hikes and have people, we've changed things around so that everyone stays outside the whole time, but we've been able to keep going, which has been a huge gift. And I think it's been really helpful for people coming to the farm to have, a piece of family education and recreation that they can do together. It's actually been really good. So,
yeah, well, it's a really fascinating story. I'm wondering about your dairy products. Are you where do you export them, or are you wholesaling, or?
No, so we're not a licensed dairy. We're really like the cheese piece of it, the dairy piece of it. Almost all the food that we raise on the farm is really for our family's consumption, and that we share with guests and visitors who come to the farm. So when people come to the farm for a goat hike, we end every hike with fresh goat milk and cookies at the end is the way we end the hikes. So people have the opportunity to try goat's milk if they've never had goat's milk before. We don't pasteurize, so it's raw milk. So people can try raw milk if they're curious about that. The town of Vrai has a local, Maine has something called local food sovereignty ordinances, which means that we are able to sell certain types of dairy products to people from the farm. We can do direct farm to consumer transactions. So we can't export our cheese. We can't sell our cheese or our milk to restaurants or grocery stores. But if people come to the farm, then they can buy milk, and we can give them samples and things like that.
But
so
pretty early on, when we were doing research, our initial thought was that cheese was where we would land. And we realized that the intimacy with the animals, that was what we really were looking for to sort of sustain us, was not something that we could scale up. We couldn't keep that feeling doing cheese on a commercial scale. And so we made the decision to be more in the hospitality and recreation industry than in the food production industry.
Yeah.
So with the goats, so talk a little bit more about where that started versus, cow milk versus goat milk.
Yeah.
Like why goats?
Why goats? Yeah. It's really hard to put our finger exactly on like when we decided it was goats. The closest thing we can kind of remember is Margaret, when she was at Magnolia, and maybe you can tell this story about bringing home that crate of dairy products from upstate New York.
Someone had brought in a sample from a relatively small cow dairy, wanting us to switch over to their milk and butter, and it was not possible. The scale that Magnolia was working on, it wasn't possible to switch to them. But I brought it home, and we could just tasting this fresher milk, this butter that had such a shorter chain of custody from cow to me. It really
sparked
something in us, but cows just seemed overwhelming. They were huge. Yeah. Sheep, you can't really drink their milk fresh. It's got a strange mouthfeel for fresh milk, though it's wonderful for yogurt and cheese. And then we just hit on goats, and it seemed like a lot of signs were kind of pointing us in that direction. Not to sound woo-woo about it, it just felt like it was the lunar year of the goat, and so there were these pictures of goats up everywhere in Chinatown, and it just felt like goats were the right, sometimes you just feel like something resonates with you and is the right thing. And we were lucky enough that was something that we both felt at the same time. I think our partnership, we couldn't have done this without both of us being exactly on the same page at the same time about that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm all about the woo-woo. I think signs are everywhere. And I think that they show up when you're ready. And I think it always comes at the perfect time, because when it's perfect for you, the opportunities tend to present themselves. So you were clearly open to receiving that, and like all the woo-woo, the law of attraction, all of it. I'm a huge fan, huge advocate, which is why before the call today, before we started recording, I was mentioning to you that I do a lot of visioning work. So the month of December, I'm going to be working on my vision for next year. Since my divorce, and I call it like the big bang, the big pivot 5 years ago, I have spent a lot of time just focusing on 1 year at a time. And I'm actually to the point where I feel like I can look 5 years down the road. And it's really interesting as a mother too, because incorporating your children in that vision, and they grow and change daily, right? So we talked about, we both have teenagers, we're managing virtual schooling, and sometimes you just feel like you're living minute to minute, and it can be very overwhelming. So, I'm also opening the door to receiving just like peace and just presence, just trying to be really present while also looking ahead and having fun with it. And the thing that a lot of my audience doesn't know, and I haven't told you yet, is that I am secretly dreaming of having a lavender farm. Yes, and I have always wanted to partner with a dairy farm I just think like lavender and goat cheese is like the best combination flavors. Like I'm really excited about where we might be together in 5 years.
I mean, you just never know where these things can take you, these ideas. I think certainly, 20 years ago, we never would have imagined that we'd be sitting here on a goat farm, goat farmers and agritourism operators. So,
well, and I think even a year ago, I was just looking at our 2019 like business plan update, and it bears no resemblance to the world we're living in now.
Yeah.
Like none of those goals can be met simply because we're living in the time of a global pandemic. And so being able to sort of shift our thinking and be open to, okay, this isn't possible, but what is possible that we never could have imagined, on a daily basis. It can be exhausting for sure, but it also can really open you up to following the journey that's right for you.
Yeah, we've always been open to different possibilities and what those different possibilities, can lead to. And I think in some ways, getting back to your question about goats, I think that's one of the things that got us interested in goats from the beginning, was because how versatile they are.
Mhm.
They're used for meat, and they're used for milk, and they're used for fiber and entertainment. And I think we kind of had this feeling like, okay, we're going to go explore this idea of goats, and there are a lot of possibilities there that we could choose different ways, and ultimately, what we chose was finding a way to share. It all stems from that year of adventure and being on the road, and a year of educating ourselves and interacting with other people. When we were traveling, I mean, just the amount of hospitality we received from people. We would call people up a day before and say, oh, you've got a goat farm and we're down the road and we'd love to come visit and hear, about what you do. And I don't think
I can't think of a single person who said
no,
don't come by.
Yeah, don't come. I mean, people let us stay in their guest rooms. They fed us. It was really the amount of hospitality everywhere we went in the country. I mean, we went places that we thought, as two sort of like Yankee, Northerners would be, people would be standoffish or not be welcoming, and we were just welcomed everywhere with open arms. And I think we knew when it came time to what we were going to do and what our farm business was going to be, we wanted to pay that forward and have a business that was about offering people the same kind of welcome and hospitality and education, if that's what they were looking for, that we received when we were looking for that.
And I think nothing to us now is more gratifying than seeing people who have visited our farm and then gone on to pursue their own dreams. We just got an email 2 days ago from someone who said, 10 years ago, I came to a cheese class that you did, and now I have a commercial goat dairy. And this is someone that we've known that she was doing this, but we hadn't really been in touch with her in a decade. And she said, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm also working on this magazine article and wondered if I could visit. And 10 years ago, she was just someone who came and wanted to see how you make chev. And now she has this flourishing business. She's been on the Today Show. She's all over the place. And it just takes a little encouragement and a little companionship or community building to say like, hey, yeah, I think that what you're interested in doing is a wonderful idea. And if we can be helpful, let us. And just a little bit of that can go so far for helping people.
Yeah. And that's such a healthy attitude, because I can tell you in the several industries that I've overlapped, whether it be food or marketing or advertising agencies, whatever it may be, the people who are the most successful are the ones who let others in and support one another. There is enough work out there for everyone. You have absolutely limitless potential. People are limiting themselves and others when they are closing their doors on helping other people grow. And it drives me bonkers. I don't understand. I really don't understand why someone would be so kind of an abrasive approach of, well, that's great, good for you, but I'm, this is my world and I'm not letting you in. I don't understand that at all.
Well, and I think if you come at things from a spirit of abundance will be there. If you say like, yes, there are enough people who want goat experiences to come hike on our farm and go do goat yoga at somebody else's farm. We can all be in this together and encouraging each other. I think that just makes for a better world. It's the kind of world I want to be in. I want our kids to be in. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too. I mean, thinking about growing up in the late 70s and 80s, how just there was so much stuff, mom lining up to get my Cabbage Patch Kid. God bless her. But you had to have all the things, right? And I feel like um, we really are becoming a little more minimalistic and trying to focus on what really matters. And if anything, I think the pandemic really did teach us that if we weren't already on that path, to realize that, what is enough? What's enough, and where can I have more space to just love other people, just have more time. Time is the greatest gift. And I think in the hospitality industry, which I've been in for a long time. And what I also didn't share with you is I had an event venue for several years that I sold right before the pivot. And being in the hospitality industry, you have to be of service and loving and really empathetic. And you offering, first of all, animals are always something that's just therapeutic in and of itself. Being out in nature, I mean, you have so many things that you're offering. I imagine you must get school groups and community groups and just girlfriends wanting like to be together.
Bachelor parties are huge.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would totally do that.
And we've got, we have a little, we often, because we also have a guest house that's in the woods that we rent. And so we get a lot of people who are staying there for wedding. We ourselves aren't a wedding venue. We're not really set up for that, but there are a number of barns and other farms that are wedding venues right around us. So we often get wedding parties staying at our house, even though the wedding's someplace else. And I can't remember when it started, but we started having a tradition of brides coming and milking goats with us the morning of their wedding.
And we've had like 5 of them in the years that we've been doing this. Like 5 brides have come on their wedding day to milk goats. And now we're just pretending that it's some kind of blessing, but I think it is. I think it is.
Do they wear their dress?
No. Before the dressing.
It's generally in that time where they're sort of in sweats, but their hair's starting to be up, but not quite ready. And they're still kind of, it's enough pre-wedding that they're not, smudging their mascara. But
oh my gosh,
it's super fun.
Wow. So they're creating additional activity that you didn't even think of. People are loving it so much that they're creating their own experience.
Yeah.
And we've actually had a couple that came here and they had their rehearsal dinner here, and some of the family was staying in the guest house, and then for I think it was their 5-year anniversary, they came back and did a private goat hike, just the couple who had gotten married.
Yeah.
And that, again, it's like you just feel like you're invited into these people's lives in this little way that feels really meaningful and feels for us really buoys us. It feels like we're in the right place offering the right thing.
Yeah. We had a wedding proposal on a goat hike once. Oh. So that was pretty special.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a really special thing going. And before we have to end, I want you to talk about the cookbooks.
Oh yeah. So we've as you know, we always like to kind of have our fingers in lots of things, and we both come from publishing backgrounds. Margaret in cookbook publishing, and me in sort of more magazine and journalism. Yeah. Margaret started with the Year of the Goat, which is her first book, and it's the story of the year that we spent traveling around the United States and all the goats we met and people we met and lessons we learned.
Yeah, and gradually things have kind of morphed. We've done a goat guide, and we've done some cookbooks and a food guide to Maine, and things have gradually morphed into this Bicentennial Community Cookbook that is a whole other 30-minute conversation how that came to be.
But I think it's this trend and this journey that we've been on, which is really about building community here on the farm, and this year it was building community through this cookbook and recipes. So it's a true community cookbook. The recipes come from Mainers all over the state of Maine, and they submitted them to we had like an open submission, a website that they could submit their recipes and family stories. And it all started before the pandemic, but we were still in the editing phase, the final editing phase when the pandemic hit. And through the pandemic, as we're putting these, these people's personal stories in the cookbook about their family and their family recipes, even though we weren't able to have guests here on the farm, it really felt like we had all of these people here with us through their families and their stories and their family recipes.
And then the book came out in June and was supposed to be in tandem with all these bicentennial celebrations around the state, which were of course canceled. But one really nice thing that came out of that was that people started using this book to do cook-alongs. So there have been cook-alongs throughout the state of people affiliated with various, libraries or public radio or different things where people have formed community through cooking along via Zoom, but it's been really a neat project to work on. So
yeah.
Oh, it sounds like it. I mean, you've really developed some amazing roots there in Maine. How do you buy the books?
So the books are available, everywhere.
Wherever books are sold.
Wherever
on
books
Amazon
are sold. But we also have a website, maine200cookbook.com, that we're selling the books directly, and we have T-shirts and recipe cards and other things that we've put together in true entrepreneurial, fashion. Try to
all the merch. We need the merch, people.
All the merch, yeah.
But the T-shirts are wonderful. They say cooking is community, and they have a silhouette of the state of Maine, which I love.
Made up of recipes.
Yeah.
So.
I love it. I'm taking a note literally on the T-shirt. I'm big on that. I'm not. I don't have many ties to the New England area, but I was born in New Hampshire, so. I have a Portsmouth, New Hampshire Pease Air Force Base, which is no longer there. But I've always wanted to travel more, and my significant other is from upstate New York, so we've had some ideas of getting up there and traveling a little bit more. So I would love to come visit.
Oh, you'll have to come do a goat hike.
Come stay on the farm.
Yes. Oh, I would love to stay on the farm. You know what? We're going to put that on the vision board. We're coming 2021.
Right. Excellent.
I'm excited. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And I just want to wish you the best. I'm so excited to continue following your journey. And I really appreciate, from parent to parent, sharing our stories here on the call and before. And hi to the goats. Oh, it's just been so much fun. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having us. It was a pleasure.
Stay healthy and well.
Thank you. You as well. Cheers to your true north story.